Todd from COSN coming at you again today. Hey, today I'm continuing on with the Pathfinder Phase 1 Certification DVD course. And if you didn't know, you can find that at the Outfitters Self-Reliance website. So just kind of recap from my last video was Block 1, Module 1, Finding Your Personal Space. So what I've picked is the high desert and a juniper forest, which isn't the best to pick because there's not hardly any water anywhere. Materials are real limited, and it takes some creativity and knowledge of the area in order to tackle these tasks. So some of the ones I'm going to show you now aren't so difficult. Let's go on with Block 1, Module 2, and this is going to be shelter. It's basically making camp. There's going to be a shelter exercise, and there's also going to be the sundial and shadow stick exercise. So I'll talk you through those, and I'll show you some pictures, and let's get started. Okay guys, so the first thing on this block is shelter. So I'm going to go over my opinion on what I look for before I build a shelter. So of course, number one to me is resources. What kind of resources are in the area? Do you have water? Do you have material to build the shelter? Do you have material for fire? Different things like that, debris. You know, what is it that can aid you in building that shelter? That's the very first thing I look for. The second thing I look for is the natural environment, kind of like this here. It doesn't look like much, but this actually can be turned into a pretty quick shelter if you clear out underneath and throw your tarp over, and you can make a pretty decent small shelter, and you can make it pretty fast without having to worry about a lot of lashings and different aids that you might need. Now, that's not what I'm setting up today. Today I'm just doing a temp shelter, basically a temp tarp shelter is what it asks for. So let's go over to the location and talk about a couple other things. All right, so this is the area that I've chosen, and you can already see I started working on this area. Okay, so the first thing I also look at after I figure out resources and natural aids and fire and all the good stuff, I start looking at overhead danger. And you can see right here, there actually is overhead danger. It might not be big, but there's a branch that's busted off and hanging up high. Now that might not kill me, but it might give me a good sized lump on my hard head. So that stuff to look for is overhead danger. I usually do it in all shelters that I make, and look for overhead danger because there could be, up in different environments, some pretty serious logs and tops of trees that could fall. Now, the other thing I look for is, spacing, your tree spacing. If you're going to use your trees, you're going to do a center line, ridge line, whatever you're going to do to hang your tarp. Those are just some very quick things that you can do and look for right off the bat. I know there's others, and there's definitely other things to look for in different environments. Now we're working with the high desert and basically a juniper forest. The three big things to look for, of course, and terminology wise, is your convection, conduction, and radiation. So, and basically, if you don't know what that is, I know a lot of guys do, and a lot of bushcrafters and things like that. And it's very simple. So, basically, when you talk about conduction, you want something to pick you up off the ground, some sort of barrier between you and the ground so it doesn't absorb the heat out of your body. Next, you want to look at convection. So you want to make sure that you put some wind barriers in so that the wind isn't taking your body heat away from you or chilling you. Radiation, basically from the sun. You can position your tarps in certain ways, or if you have a darker tarp, it can actually gather the sun's rays and actually produce you some heat. And of course, it goes back to setting up your fire correctly with a fire reflector that'll radiate heat back into your shelter. So those are just some very simple things. I want to make this quick, and I'm going to set the shelter up, show you the end result, and move on to the next exercise. So a really quick tip, and this isn't for long-term use, or sometimes in cold or hot environments this wouldn't work real well, but I do on a lot of my tarps. I carry 4 bungee cords, and what I'm going to use today is basically the tarp, 4 bungee cords, set it up, and should be done in no time. And that's why I use these bungee cords for day trips, or maybe just a single overnighter. I'll use bungee cords. Now for, like I said, if it's really hot or if it's really cold, the bungees might not work for you, but for a short, really quick setup, I like using bungee cords. Alright guys, so it took maybe all of about 8 to 10 minutes and set up a nice shelter. You know, and it's temp. This is a temp shelter. This isn't something that, you know, you'd live under long term or, you know, anything like that. But this is a temp shelter and it works really well. And to just get it up fast, protect you from the elements, and then you can move on. Okay guys, so this is going to be my sun compass, and also, or you can call it the, you know, shadow stick method. So just really quick, I'm going to go over it. I don't have sun today. I actually did this a couple days ago, and I just kind of left it up to actually shoot more of a video because I had a request to actually see more skills than just kind of a brief overview. So really quick, this is your main stick. You stick into the ground, and most places that I've studied, they recommend at least a 3-foot stick or a 1-meter stick for your shadow stick. Okay, and then once you get that into the ground, mark the end of the shadow, and I'll show you a close-up. All right guys, so at the end of your shadow, you're basically going to put your first stick in. All right, now, and also the other books that I've read and also studied, which I don't practice this method very much. This is probably only the second time I've done this. But so basically, put your first stick in at the end of the shadow stick, and the shadow comes to here. Place your stick. Now, it's recommended to wait 3 hours and place your next stick, which I waited about an hour. If you wait 15-20 minutes, of course, you're going to be somewhere in here, and you'll get a little less accurate reading. But I waited about an hour, put another stick at the end of the next shadow in an hour, and then all you do is basically take, and here we go again with our juniper forest. It's hard to find straight pieces, so I put another straight piece here, and then another straight piece that comes and points right at your shadow stick. Okay, so your end right here is going to be north, down there is going to be south, over here it's going to be east, and right here is going to be west. It's pretty simple to do, not real difficult. So let's turn this into a quick sundial without the sun. I'll just show you the method, and there we go. Alright guys, so I'm just going to give an overview of all my research and everything I've done for a sundial. Now, I've never done a sundial because it takes time, and it also takes, of course, sunlight, which I don't have now. So we're going to talk hypothetically. So in a survival situation, say your watch is not going to last forever, you want to make a sundial. So basically, when the sun comes up, roughly, you got your watch 6 a.m. So you're going to stick your stake in at the end of the shadow at 6 a.m. Okay, now you're going to wait till 6 p.m. and you're going to stub another stake at 6 p.m. at the top of your shadow from the shadow stick. Okay, now roughly in between there you have 12 hours. So what you're going to do, you're going to take a piece of 550, roughly kind of scope it out here, tie off your scribe. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to draw an arc. So that sun, that shadow stick, should follow along somewhere in that area. Okay, so like I said, you have 12 hours between this time period. So basically you're going to take, cut the middle, that's noon. You're going to cut it into 12 separate sections, and that will create your sundial. So basically what I mean by cutting it up into 12 different sections is you're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, noon, or vice versa, I should say, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so of course you're going to make these visible, so you know when that shadow stick runs on there. Okay, so when that shadow stick runs on each one of these, you'll know what time it is. So you know this is noon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. Okay, so like I said, this is hypothetically. I'm just showing you what a sundial is and how to create it. Of course, A, I don't have the time, and B, I don't have the sun. Alright guys, So that's block 1, module 2, making camp. Exercise 1 is shelter, exercise 2 is sundial and compass. Now, if you guys see anything that, of course, I could do better, or because I don't practice sundial or compass, I've done a compass before, but the sundial, like I said, takes time, and also, of course, sun. But and that's another thing about a compass. You know, it's great. It's a great method, and I encourage people to learn it. But at the same time, if you don't have sun, you don't have a compass. So with that being said, I thank you guys for watching and everything you guys do.